Hi everyone, welcome to Cavs Insider. I'm Dan Labbe, and we're going to talk all things Cavs-Celtics, and we're going to peek a little bit ahead too to a likely matchup with the Chicago Bulls on today's show. I'll be joined by our Cavaliers beat reporter Chris Haynes and Joe Vardon, our Cavaliers and LeBron reporter, as well a little later. Plus, we're going to take a look inside the watch party at the Q last night, see how that looked. But first of all, let's get right to it. Let's bring in our Cavaliers beat reporter Chris Haynes. Chris, the Cavs 103-95 winners last night over the Celtics. They have a 3-0 series lead. It was the most physical game of the series. What did you think of how Boston played?
I think they did all that they could do. This is a team that is overmatched. They're undermanned, but they fight. They outwork you. They out-hustle you. They give you a maximum effort, and it's a good test for the Cavaliers. But at the end of the day, there's a guy on the Cavaliers roster by the name of LeBron James who absolutely loves playing in those type of hostile environments. When he's going, there's nothing you can do. And the Boston Celtics, they were just at his mercy.
Yeah, Chris, looking at what LeBron James did last night, he came out from the start and he was aggressive. We saw in the first two games, game one, he went right to Kevin Love to try and get him going. Game two, he seemed willing to let Kyrie Irving be the guy. But yesterday, LeBron on the road, as we've seen again and again in the playoffs, he decided he was going to take over early.
And I'm writing about this right now, about the environment, trying to paint a picture of what it was like yesterday, last night. That environment, man, it was so hostile. The words that were coming out of some of these people's mouths it was just horrendous. The filth, like LeBron caught every verbal jab, ranging from his mother to his kids to his manhood. It was just nasty. And, LeBron talked about after the game saying he loves the road playoff games. Said he gets up for those games. He likes it even more than playing at home. And so they played right into the hands of LeBron, and I'm writing this right now as we speak, and I talked about how the Celtics fans, they were the sixth man last night for the Celtics, not Isaiah, who only had 5 points. But at the end of the day, I think they failed to realize that instead of rooting against the guy or saying some of the stuff they should have said, they probably should have just kept quiet.
Chris, the way that game was played, as physical as it was, the way it was reffed, is that going to be beneficial to the Cavs ultimately? Because when they face Chicago, likely starting next weekend, it's going to be a similar series. They're going to throw their big guys at the Cavs. They're going to be physical. We've seen how they played against Milwaukee. Was this good for the Cavaliers to play in a game like this?
There's no doubt about it. It's good. And I got an opportunity to get a exclusive interview with Kyrie last night about that hard foul that he took and how Jonas basically, when Kyrie was on the ground, walked over to him, kind of stood over him, as if like, okay, you want to do something? But those are little tactics that teams will always throw out there. They'll put a role player out there to try to get into it with a main player in hopes that an altercation will pursue and those guys get ejected. And at the end of the day, a role player can be replaced. A star player like Kyrie can't. And so Kyrie handled that situation. He talked about how he's not, he's not no punk. He's not going to go out like that. But at the same time, it's important for him and his teammates to keep his composure. And his team absolutely did that. And it's all looking like the Chicago Bulls are going to be that team. It's inevitable. They're going to be physical. Joakim Noah, he's going to lay some wood. But there's no doubt about it. This series right here, it was the perfect test, the perfect opening matchup for this Cavaliers because they're going to face that type of physicality and maybe even more down the road.
Yeah, to stay with that Kyrie thing for a minute, we know that he's one of the best finishers in the league around the rim, and we haven't seen a lot of teams take the approach that when he drives early, they're going to put him on the ground. Boston isn't going to beat the Cavs, but they certainly are putting a blueprint out there on how to attack that defense and how to attack the Cavaliers on the other side of the floor as well. Are we going to see more of that, not just from the Bulls, but moving forward? Are teams going to try and get Kyrie on the floor early?
Well, I think Kyrie and LeBron as well, and Kevin Love too. They feel like Jay Crowder kept saying, this is the second game in a row that Jay Crowder has said, we want to be physical with LeBron James. We want to send a message out there. So they believe that if they can do that, it gives them a chance. And it's true to a certain degree because all three of these games have been close. You know, the Cavs have pulled it out toward the end because they just have the talent. But if a team can implement that type of strategy, a physical approach to, have the Cavs second guessing about coming to the lane, if they can do that, successfully, these other teams are going to have the talent to stay with the Cavs in the closing minutes. It ain't going to just be a clean break for the Cavs, to get a win. It's going to be that much tougher. So it is definitely a blueprint. It's just that the Boston Celtics don't have the talent at the end to come through with victories.
Now, of course, Kevin Love last night, 6 3-pointers. He had 23 points. He was 8 of 16 from the field, 6 of 10 from 3. Marv Albert called it the game that Cavaliers fans have been waiting for from Kevin Love. Just what were you thinking last night as you were watching Love, and do you think this was his best game as a Cavalier?
His best? Well, he had some pretty good games this season, but it was definitely his best game in the pressurized situation because he hasn't. That was his. That was the biggest stage that he's been on, and that's the biggest stage that he performed well on. And he hit those clutch threes, man. That was big for his confidence. After that last one, you saw him skating up and down and racing to his teammates. And we haven't seen Love in a perky mood like that in a while, man. We just haven't seen it, even in wins. So for him to play a huge part in why the Cavs are 3-0 right now, it definitely has to feel good for him and his teammates. Love is a big integral part of how this team is going to play and how far they're going to go. So for him to experience this right now is only going to bode well for them in the future.
And Tristan Thompson, it's going to be real. It's going to be real easy to pay him. They're going to be able to justify a pretty big contract for him.
Man, I remember, executive told me earlier in the year that Tristan will be the Horace Grant of this team. And I remember writing that, and I got bashed for it, and rightfully so. It was early on, and I was trusting a source that, who said that. But look at what he's doing, man. He is, I'm not going to say he's the glue, but he's a guy that you just cannot keep off the floor. He's a Timothy Moscow is going to play for any team, any major minutes. Tristan Thompson is coming in there and playing the majority of minutes down the stretch, coming up with key offensive rebounds. And when you can get offensive rebounds and give extra possessions to LeBron, to Kyrie, to Kevin Love, man, it's lights out. It's just simply lights out. This guy, he works from start to finish. He's tenacious on the glass, man. He just wants to do whatever it takes to win. There's not many guys in the league like him. And to have him on a team with 3 all-stars, that's just a recipe for disaster for the opponent.
Chris, it feels like Boston gave the Cavs their last best shot last night. What do you think is going to happen Sunday? Are they going to have anything left to give this team, or are the Cavaliers, going to be so focused on getting that series over with, getting that rest, that Sunday could end up being maybe the easiest win of the series?
It definitely won't point to that type of scenario. Of course, we don't know for sure. But, yeah, I think the Boston Celtics, I think they've emptied the deck. I don't think they have anything left. They tried different lineups. They tried different rotation patterns. They tried to be physical. They tried luring tactics to try to get members of the Big Three to bite on some type of physicality and get some type of penalty. They tried that. The Cavaliers endured. The Cavaliers fought through. They persevered. They passed every test. They don't have anything left unless somehow they can go back 20-something years and pull back Larry Bird, Kevin McHale out of that locker room, and get them back in the Celtics uniform. That's the only way they have a chance. And we all know that's not happening, so I don't think they really have a chance. I called a sweep from the beginning. I'm going to stick with that.
It's desperate times when the best strategy the Celtics have is to try and build a time machine before Sunday. All right, Chris Haynes, our Cavaliers beat reporter, joining us. Chris, thanks for the time.
Yeah, anytime, my guy. Take care.
All right, that was Chris Haynes. We'll have Joe Vardon coming up momentarily. But the Cavaliers, with their team on the road, are opening up the Quicken Loans Arena for fans to come and watch the game on what they call Humongotron. There was a pretty good crowd there last night at the Q, and our own Crystal Hartshorn was there.
Cavaliers are in the playoffs, and of course, Cleveland had to party. We're here at the Q Arena with Ahmad. You might know him on the big screen all the time. You guys have these watch parties. What goes down? Because I'm feeling the energy.
Everything that goes on at a Cavs game is the same thing that's going on today. Only difference is the players aren't here. So we got the exciting introductions with the pyro going on. We're going to have the Cavalier girls, the screen team. We got the timeouts, the energy. Bud Light really hooked us up with this watch party.
Talk to me about the energy in the room tonight. How exciting is this moment right now?
Yeah, it feels so good. Like right now in the stadium, it feels like it's a real game. How many people are in here? How exciting it is.
They do such a great job with all these different events that they put on. We love being season ticket holders.
Definitely. And how excited are you that the Cavs are in the playoffs? That's why we're here, right?
Yeah. LeBron's back. It's amazing.
It's the first time Cleveland's been like this in years, so I'm loving it.
It's great. Look how many people are here for an away game.
So for us to get this far, we really are showing them like the talent that we had even before LeBron came back, and now with him, I really think we're like going to be unstoppable.
We've been waiting for this for 5 years, and to be here, it's amazing. We're proud to be Clevelanders, and I encourage everyone to come to the watch parties because it's amazing.
All right, the fans are all here. We're all in. Woo!
All right, thanks, Crystal. She was live at the, well, not live. Last night she was live at the Quicken Loans Arena watch party for Cavaliers Celtics. They'll do it again on Sunday at 1 o'clock if you're looking for some place to watch the Cavs game and you want to watch it on a super huge TV, what they call Humongotron. All right, let's bring in another member of our Cavaliers reporting team. He also covers LeBron James for us. Joe Vardon joining us. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great. It'd be tough to follow Chris Haynes this morning. I mean, he's been on fire this week, doing great stuff. So I'll see what I can do.
All right, Joe. LeBron James last night, he came out early. He was aggressive. He attacked the basket. He seemed to embrace that environment. Chris was telling us about the things LeBron was hearing, the things that Boston fans were yelling at him, and we've seen it before. LeBron loves playing on the road. He loves playing in Boston, and it showed last night.
It sure did. I don't know what he could hear because there are so many people in there yelling so many things. I know the guy standing behind Chris and I all night was funny, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I mean, he plays amazing basketball at the Garden. It's a tough place to win, regardless of who the Celtics have in uniform come playoff time. And, he played great. The 31 points and the 11 rebounds are what you'll think about. But there were some winning basketball plays that LeBron made that do not involve him putting the ball in the hole. You look at the charge that he drew on Jay Crowder. You look at the block of Evan Turner. And, of course, the play I wrote about this morning, finding Kevin in the corner. I mean, those are the things that a guy who's a four-time MVP and two-time champion and kind of knows what it takes, those are the kinds of plays they make down the stretch.
The other thing we saw from LeBron, and we've seen this before as well, when one of his teammates takes a hard foul like Kyrie Irving did yesterday, he's not a guy that runs away. He's not a guy that backs down. He'll be one of the first guys coming over to try and defend his teammates. What do you think that means to this team, to his teammates, when they see LeBron James, of all people, the best player on the floor, coming over and essentially having their back?
I think that it's not so much what it means, although I'm sure Kyrie appreciated it, and he said as much. It's more indicative and or representative of the fact that, for better or worse, these Cavs are kind of locked in together right now. And LeBron, coming to anybody's defense is certainly indicative of that. J.R. Smith was called for a technical for shoving Crowder, who had just shoved LeBron, who had come over to Kyrie's defense during that. So, they're kind of all in it. It'd be nice to see how Kendrick Perkins would affect a situation like that, but he's not the best matchup in this series. But I think, I do think that right now, playing Boston up 3-0, they're all in a really good place, and you can consider all the warm fuzzies that LeBron had for Kevin last night, and and all the things that Kevin said about, knowing that the team, that the players and the coaching staff and the organization has his back, and he's giving them love in return. And LeBron talking about all this faith and confidence and how he never wavered on love. And of course, that's different from everything we had seen and heard from these guys all year. But they're in a different place now. And hopefully for them, it holds up when things get a little tougher when they face Chicago.
One of the things a lot of people have been talking about, of course, is that so-called hero ball. We saw it again last night. In fact, before one of Kevin Love's big shots, LeBron kind of went one-on-one, missed the shot. Tristan Thompson got the rebound. Are you concerned at all about a lot of the hero ball that we're seeing? And do you think that's something that will work against a team like Chicago?
I'm not going to say I'm concerned. I noticed it, and I noticed it right from the jump at the start of the fourth quarter. The first. I'm going to make it up a little bit here, but the first 3 or 4 possessions was LeBron with the ball in his hands, dribble, jump shot. In the first 2 possessions, I think it worked, and then the third one, it didn't. And that's kind of how the quarter went, really. And the reason why I'm not concerned is because that is really not how they played in the first 2 rounds. They really have been running sets. They still run lots of pick and roll, but they also have incorporated some other different kinds of passing and cutting sets. They had some new ones last night, and they ran them great in the first 2 and a half quarters last night. They got all sorts of looks at the rim, exactly what they wanted. And Dan, you and I talked about it yesterday morning, that the middle would be open, and it was, and they took advantage of that. So that's all really good, and those are all positives. Sort of the evolution into the hero ball stuff. It's not what you want to see, but it's also not new. LeBron has won plenty of games in the playoffs doing that, so I'm not pushing any panic buttons there yet.
All right, Joe, we've kind of learned this year about LeBron that he's thinking big picture with the way he's approached this season, taking those 2 weeks off in January. So now if we're still thinking big picture, Game 4, obviously it would be very beneficial to the Cavaliers to come back to Cleveland without the Celtics, to have that, what could be close to a week off between series going into what should be a very physical series. Do you expect LeBron James to come out in Game 4 with the attitude, we're going to finish the Celtics now, we don't even want to think about a Game 5?
I hesitate here, but I think so. I think that the Cavs will want to come out on Sunday and put this away. I know certainly all of their friends in the press corps are rooting for that. There's no question. But there are still some dynamics at play here that leave Sunday to a little bit of doubt, and that's okay. But Boston, for whatever reason, plays so hard to the point that, as LeBron talked about last night, they're not a team you can blow out. So assuming that remains true on Sunday, it's going to be close. For the first 3 games of the series, we've seen the Cavs execute, really well in winning time, and Boston just hasn't. But if it is a close game on Sunday, and in that environment, it is a crazy, amazing environment, and Boston does make a few plays in the other direction, then you leave it to chance. I have been waiting. I thought Game 1 would be tight, but since then I have been waiting for the Cavs to put together a complete game, and really, despite whatever LeBron and David Black say, really get that blowout win, kind of put their stamp on this series. I thought for sure it would come in Game 2, and then I wondered if, given kind of the mood LeBron was in yesterday, if it might come last night, and it just hasn't. So if everything LeBron said yesterday is true about him demanding excellence of himself and of teammates and of having that kind of killer instinct. That's what they will do on Sunday. But there is enough going on with the Celtics just to make me pause a little bit as to what we'll see on Sunday.
All right, that's Joe Vardon. He covers LeBron James and the Cavaliers for us. Joe, thanks for the time.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, Cavs and Celtics, their series will resume Sunday at 1 o'clock. That game is on ABC. Of course, if you want to go watch it somewhere, there'll be all kinds of watch parties around town, and the big one will be at Quicken Loans Arena. You can watch it on the Humongotron. My thanks to Chris Haynes. My thanks to Joe Vardon. I'm Dan Labbe. We'll be back with you Monday to recap Game 4.